Okay, for some perspective from Washington, D.C., let me bring in Republican Congressman from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, let's start with the shutdown. Is there any way you think this thing gets hashed out in the next few days, or are we in it for a long stay, as the president says?
I don't know. It's like a bad episode of General Hospital where, the plot's the same over and over, but we just can't look away and we do it all over and over again. So yeah. I look at this and go, president wants $5 billion. Probably what ends up happening is he gets a little less than that. I think the president deserves the money for the wall, honestly. Like, he ran on this. It's pretty well supported, and we should do it. But shutting down the government, especially when you have the Democrats coming in January 3rd, that's a time certain where now they have a seat in the House. So I don't think it gets resolved anytime in the very near future, but I think we may end up getting to something hopefully by the time the new Congress comes in. It's 25% of government. It's not the entire government, but it's no way to do business.
So do you think that Trump was outplayed, outmaneuvered by Democrats on the wall and the shutdown?
Not necessarily. I mean, when you have an inflexible Democratic Party that says we're just simply not going to do anything that's called wall, and on our side, we're like, we want to do something called wall. It's what the president ran on. It's kind of, I don't know if there's blame everywhere, but it's a really bad part of how this negotiates. And so, the president for 2 years has signed spending bills that didn't have a lot of wall money in it, and it really kind of came to a head now. So I don't like it. I think it sends a bad message. Obviously, over the holidays, it makes people uncomfortable, especially, but I think we get through it like we always do somehow.
So are you alarmed by the chaos inside this administration? The ethics violations, the investigations, the resignations, the SNAP policy decisions. Does that alarm you?
Yeah, I mean, it's these investigations, nobody likes to see them. And you made a really good point. If this was President Obama, I wouldn't be celebrating any of this. This is a great country that we have to have two healthy parties and a very healthy administration. Where I'm especially concerned is the area of Syria, the potential decision on Afghanistan, really waking up one day and echoing Rand Paul's foreign policy view, which I got to tell you, 2% of the country votes libertarian in any given, presidential cycle because their foreign policy views are way out of the mainstream. And this is a page right out of Rand Paul's book. And you've seen that when all of the administration officials over the last few weeks and months have said, we're going to be in Syria for a while because there's so many reasons to be there. And like that, it changes. It's very concerning.
And we're going to talk more about Syria later in the show, but I do want to talk to you about it because you and I have talked about Syria a lot, and I know how important you think it is that we finish that fight if we can. Do you have plans to talk to the president about that, or have you spoken to the president about Syria?
Yeah, I had actually quite a in-depth conversation with the president, and I don't want to reveal all the details of that because I think it's important to be able to have that trust to talk. He was very open. I was very open. It was respectful. I believe he really believes he's doing the right thing, but I vehemently disagree with what he's doing. The point is, we have a base, for instance, in Tanf. Only 200 people are there, but it is blocking Iran from being able to supply weapons to the enemies of Israel. We have basically 30% of Syria under the U.S. and its allies' protection for a relatively low involvement, 2,200 mostly advisors. To leave that position takes us away from the negotiating table to end this. A humanitarian crisis is impending when they attack Idlib, which will happen. It's a mess all around, not to mention it's a recruiting boon for ISIS.
All of that and more. So what did you make of James Mattis retiring? What did you make of his resignation letter? It was pretty scathing.
Yeah, it was a professional and scathing letter. I think it was right for him to do. He obviously had very intense policy disagreements with the president. The president, agree with him or disagree, probably deserves somebody in that position that can advise him with his trust. But look, Mattis knew what was important. He knew the importance of this position in Syria. He knew the importance of continuing to press the fight in Afghanistan. We don't choose whether to fight terrorists. We just choose where to fight terrorists. And so I think Secretary Mattis did the honorable thing by stepping down.
Congressman Kinzinger, thanks so much. Have a Merry Christmas at home with your friends and family.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, thank you.